Hey everybody, welcome to my living room. These are our small group leader trainings. We're gonna do just 5 minutes videos once a month, just a chance to connect with you and talk about, really, I wanna encourage you, one, and then give you some practical tools for your small group time. One, I'm so grateful you're part of our team. Just so you know, we did a survey a couple of years ago with our students, and a high majority said their most favorite part of youth group is the small group time. They love their small groups. That's what keeps them coming back. And it's essential that our small group time is good, because that really plays into a healthy ministry. And more importantly, when our small group time is good, kids are growing in their faith. They might hear something in worship or in the talk, but the best chance we have for spiritual growth in their life is during your small group time. So I want to encourage you and thank you for being a part of this. Take ownership of your group. This is your role, and I want you to own it. Make sure your time is effective and used to the best of your ability. So yes, there's time to laugh and giggle and have fun, but make sure you set aside the brunt of your time to get these kids talking. So just want to encourage you, take ownership of your group. If that means taking all their cell phones, putting them in the middle of the room during small group, go for it. That means sitting around in a circle. Whatever you have to do, make sure you take ownership of that time. This is your time, and I want you to lead it effectively. We have a half an hour during the whole week, and so I want to harness that to the best of our ability. And I want to give you a few just practical tips to make your small group time effective. One, your job is a conversation facilitator. You're not the person that answers everything. You are to ask good questions, and there's an art to asking good questions, and it's a learned process. And you have to know your students a little better, but I want to encourage you, start to ask good questions. And a simple way of asking a good question is kind of like Google Maps. When you go on a trip somewhere, they'll give you 3 or 4 different ways to get there. Think of questions that way. Don't think of that there's one word answers or there's only one right answer. That you want to ask questions in a way where students can come to several different conclusions to the question. Maybe my perspective is this, or my perspective is this, so that it'll solicit more answers and deeper conversation, greater conversation. So think of it like Google Maps. Avoid the one-word answers. Avoid the answer of Jesus. Avoid that. You want kids to get talking, to really discuss, and to really dig into their own lives as to what's going on. So avoid those one-word answers. Avoid the closed questions. Think about questions that invite a deeper response. So I also want you to think about your small group time in terms of broad to narrow. Start with the broad. We have those goofy questions in the beginning. Start with those just to get kids talking, and then slowly just kind of move to the narrower questions. Something that's more specific, something that really fits in what's going on in their life, that can be applied in their life. So go from broad to narrow. And I would encourage you, use our questions just as a springboard. I don't ever want to hear anybody say, well, we finished all our questions, so we're done, and then you let your group go. I want you guys to think of those just as a springboard. If you use one question, or if you use all 3 or 4, that's fine. Use those just as starter questions, and I want you guys to kind of formulate more questions that fit your group. You know your kids best, so I would encourage you to use those just as a springboard. Outside of that, think about application. How can these thoughts, how can the lesson that they heard, how can the worship, how can the scripture, how can that apply to their lives and where they're at, whether they're in 6th grade or whether they're in 12th grade? What applies to their life? How can they take that with them at night or during school and think about, what does God want from me? How can I live my life more for Him? And then I would say, every group, the best thing you can do is to end in prayer. To help develop a caring community of small group members, learn to pray for one another. So I would say, always ask for prayer requests from your group. And then make sure that you have other small group members pray for those. I think it's important for kids to know how and learn how to pray during their small group time. And that really helps develop a caring community. You can come back the week after that and say, hey, how is that going in your life? Just to develop this caring type of community. I'm convinced when we're all doing our job, man, these kids are gonna grow, and you're gonna see a benefit in your small group. You're gonna enjoy your small group time more, and there's gonna be a depth and a spiritual growth that you see happen in the lives of these students. So thanks so much. We'll see you next month.